inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Assalamu alaikum everybody, thank you for having me. Because it's Saturday morning, it's okay. Don't worry, I'm not going to ask you 20 times to say wa alaikum salam. I understand, Saturday morning, you understand? Okay. I'd like to thank MCB for supporting our sister Rashida. I'd like to thank Sister Rashida and also our dear sister, Sister Saida there from Everyday Muslim for putting this together. If I'll be honest and transparent, and I'm saying this with honesty from the heart, in the past I've been very critical of the MCB, but since Sister Rashida has come to the realm and she's doing a lot of hard work and trying to make people understand the issues of black Muslims in the UK, I take back all my words and I'm wrong. So I've been proven wrong by Sister Rashida. She slapped me in the face and I wish her all the best, and she can slap me again. I might look big and ugly, but I'm a big weakling on the inside, inshallah. As I can see, there's a big Nigerian contingent. It reminds me of my wedding, because my my father-in-law is Nigerian. And even though my name is Ismael Lea South, when I meet them, they call me Omawale. I added that Ismael Lea South, Omawale. Maybe one day I might get it. Okay. Cut to the chase. It was Saturday morning humor, just to wake us up, you know? Right, this is about black Muslims in the UK and joining organisations. What I've done is, as someone, myself and another brother, we started the Salam Project because we saw a lot of young black boys, and as well as Muslims, get involved in trouble, negativity. And we found that one of the things that is due to is ignorance of self. So I've just done this presentation here about black Muslims in the UK. Many of us black Muslims in the UK don't know about our own heritage here in the UK. We could quote African history about Mansa Musa in Africa. We could talk about Islamic black history in America. But when it comes to the UK, many of us don't know. So without further ado, I'm going to start. Before Islam, there was a North African man by the name of Septimus Severus, okay, who ruled the Roman Empire from York, the north of England. He was from a place called Tripoli, that's known as Tripoli today, and this English historian, he wrote a book about him, the African Empire. Now, as we all know, in the year 711 AD, the Moors, they came to Spain, and they conquered Spain. We always hear how the Moors came to Spain, but there is an African-American scholar and Dr. Ivan van Sertima, some of you might have heard of. He's done extensive research to say the Moors not only stayed in Spain, they expanded into France, Germany, as well as the UK. The power of the Moors in Europe was so strong, there was an English king by the name of King Offa Rex who minted coins. And on one side of the coin is King Offa Rex, and on the other side he had the Shahada, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. So this is not Spain, this is not Morocco, this is in Britain. Gibraltar, which is part of the UK, is named after an African Moor who conquered Spain. So they went, before they conquered Spain, they went to Gibraltar and then they came to Spain. So Tariq, the African Moor, where Gibraltar, which is part of the UK, is named after an African Muslim. So when people say that black Muslims are new to Islam, this is a new phenomenon, we've been here since the 8th, 9th century. Right, according to a white British scholar by the name of David McRitchie, he's written a book called Ancient and Modern Britons. This book was written in the 19th century. And he's written a book that states that once the Moors conquered Spain, African Moors then came over to Britain in the 9th century, the 9th and 10th century. They not only settled here, they were part of Britain were they wholly occupied? Here's further work by other writers and scholars on the history of Africans and people from the African community and people from the Caribbean community being in Britain for over 700-800 years. There were business entrepreneurs, so I know when we normally hear about African people being in the UK, we normally hear there were slaves, and there were servants, there were prostitutes, and I'm not saying that's not true, but we don't really hear the other side. So I thought I'll share the other side. So this is a business entrepreneur, pardon me if I pronounce it wrong, Ali-Diakides. He was a prince of what's now known today as Liberia. He lived in the UK and he was a business entrepreneur who traded many goods from Liberia to the UK, and he lived here in the UK. Sheikh Ayub bin Suleiman, many people talk about him. He was a Senegalese sheikh, Senegambian sheikh, and he was from a scholarly family. And not only that, he was also a trader as well. And he met with the royal family at the time and he received a gift. And he wrote the Quran straight from memory here in the UK. Now, there was a king in the UK called King George I, okay? And what a lot of people don't know is he was German, because as we know, the royal family goes by lineage. So there was a time when there were no more British royal family members available, but because the royal families around Europe married each other, the next in line was King George I, who lived in Hanover in Germany. When he was in Vienna, there was an attempt to kill him, and 2 African Turks saved his life. And from there, he befriended them, and he made them his personal bodyguards, his accountants, and advisors and treasurers. This book, Germany Black Diaspora, shows you evidence and proof about the 2 African Turks that he befriended. And when he became the King of England, they were always by his side. With respect, he never trusted much the English. He trusted more his 2 African Muslim brothers. I'm not saying King George I was a Muslim, by the way, but brothers in mankind. This is the man who I'm doing a lot of research on myself. I must say and I must stress, first of all, I'm not a sheikh, I'm not a scholar, I'm not an academic, I'm not a historian. I'm a person who is passionate about history. I like to read history books. Some people in their spare time play golf, some play tennis, some do hijab tutorials. I like to read history, okay? And I think it's important for African and Afro-Caribbean Muslims, as well as the Muslim community as a whole, to learn more about the African Muslims and Afro-Caribbean Muslim history in the UK. So this is a man called Deuce Muhammad Ali. In the Pan-Africanist circles, he's famous. Within the Pan-Africanist non-Muslim circles. As we all know, I'm sure we all know some who are Pan-Africanists, they hate Muslims, they curse Muslims, whatever, but they acknowledge that this man here, who is also known in the Pan-Africanist circles as the mentor of a man called Mr. Marcus Garvey, was also an intellectual here in the UK. He established a newspaper who remembers a place called Fleet Street? Could someone tell me, who was Fleet Street again? Could someone remind me? Pardon? It was the heart of the world press, yes. So he established a newspaper in Fleet Street. And it was widely distributed around the UK, around America, Africa, and the Caribbean. Now, the Pan-Africanist side I know very well because my brother, to be transparent with you, my brother is a Pan-Africanist. And when it comes to the Muslim talk, the Muslims in Salaam, I don't want to do nothing. But he has utmost respect for Deuce Muhammad Ali. Now, by accident, I was doing some research on Deuce Muhammad Ali because I had to give a presentation at a Sudanese event. And I found out that this same Deuce Muhammad Ali, he worked with the Woking Mosque, which is being promoted as one of the first British mosques. He was working with the mosque, he helped them to fundraise. He also worked with one of the first translators of the English Quran, Mr. Muhammad Pickthall. And he also worked with someone who's always quoted as the first British Muslim, called Abdullah Kulian. So this man was not only active in the Pan-Africanist circles, he was very active in the British Muslim circles. And if I be straight and honest with you, there's not enough research done on him by the British Muslim community. Now, when it comes to World War I and World War II, when we watch the news and they mention Muslims, with respect to our Asian brothers and sisters, we always hear, how the Muslims were fighting in the war too. And they always show pictures of Indian soldiers predominantly. But we never hear about the African and Afro-Caribbean soldiers that fought in the war. And from those soldiers, there's a group of academics, black Muslim academics and researchers who come together. They're now doing research on African and Afro-Caribbean Muslim soldiers that were active in the army. Because as we know, during the First World War and Second World War, there were soldiers from Nigeria, from Ghana, from Uganda, Sierra Leone, Somalia. Do these places have any Muslims? Loads. Okay. Now, in the swinging 60s, there was a person called Michael X. I'm not sure if any of you know him. Okay, a bit of a colourful character. To put it nicely, yeah, very colourful, yeah. To put it nicely, he had one foot in Islam and he had one foot in gangsterland. Okay? Now, this young man here is not Michael X for the record. So this young man here embraced Islam in his teens. He came here as part of the Windrush generation. His name is Sheikh Sadallah. So he came in his teenage years during the Windrush generations in the 1950s. In his teenage years, he had a spiritual dream and he met some African Muslims and he embraced Islam. So then when he embraced Islam, he saved up some money, he went to travel around North Africa, he traveled around Arabia and he came back here. And he helped to work with a small growing black Muslim community in the UK. This was in the 60s, 1960s and the 70s. Now, especially from the Afro-Caribbean community, it was very frowned upon. That, oh my gosh, you converted to Islam, that mad religion. It's about war and so forth. So when daughters were converted to Islam and when family members were converted to Islam, it caused a lot of friction in families. He was often the mediator. Now, we hear a lot today about interfaith and so forth, and there are many new Muslim interfaith initiatives which have just started in the 2000s, late 90s. This man here set up one of the first interfaith initiatives and called the Order of Melchizedek, where he encouraged Muslims to do dialogue with Rastafarians, Christians, and Pan-Africanists. He was so much loved by the Christians and the Rastafarian community, he received an award. Muhammad Khaja, he was a volunteer under Sheikh Sadallah, and he had an organization called the Organization for Islamic Development. He was very active in trying to organize and build resilience among Afro-Caribbean Muslims and try to encourage more Afro-Caribbean Muslims to work with African Muslims to build positive initiatives. Because as you know, among the Afro-Caribbean community, due to colonization, how do I say Habib? Sorry? Thank you. Sorry, it's a Saturday morning. There was a bit of issues between the Afro-Caribbean community and the African community, but he used to try and build the bridges. This sister here, Sister Adila Shabazz, she's a community worker, she's a community chaplain, and she made her home a safe haven for sisters who are going through issues of domestic violence and certain things, and she's an advocate for women's education. And she's also a trustee of North Brixton Mosque. You guys must know this man. Who doesn't know this man, shame on you, and you're Nigerian. Okay, this man here, we call him the uncle of all uncles. It's Mr. Professor Noibi, a scholar, an academic community leader, and also the spiritual lead for the Muslim Association of Nigeria. A man who, when I first came into Islam, we were honored to call this man at any time, and he used to come for our events that we used to organize. Now the MCB, who knew? They used to have a general secretary by the name of Dr. Dawood Abdullah. And FOSIS, a Muslim organization, had a president by the name of Bashir Osman. May Allah bless his soul. Bashir Osman really recently died. He recently drowned. But he was a big advocate to encourage more African Muslims to get involved in organizations, to try to make changes from the inside rather than moaning from the outside. Sister Sadat, she set up an initiative called Muslim Sisters Jamaat in South London that helps to support sisters, especially of African and Afro-Caribbean heritage, to help them to get into education, work and employment, and set up business enterprises. Sheikh Babika Ahmed, a Sheikh of Sudanese heritage, who's accredited scholar, an imam, an academic, and not only that, he's a senior advisor to many leading Muslim and BME organizations, and he worked with Prince Charles in setting up the organization called the Mosque. Sheikh Faisal Bodi, a senior advisor to the Islam channel, and also a community imam of North Brixton Mosque of Ghanaian heritage, a lovely man. I call him my uncle, cuddly uncle. Sheikh Abdullah Awis, a Somalian imam and sheikh, who's also a senior chaplain amongst the Feltham community chaplaincy, and encourages more people to get involved in community chaplaincy work. And Sheikh Ibrahim Asir Effort from Liverpool, a sheikh and scholar from Liverpool who's very active up north, working with African and Afro-Caribbean communities. Naima B. Roberts, a sister who has a magazine called the Sisters Magazine, who's also an advocate for getting more sisters to writing their stories, writing their books. Also Sheikh Abdullah, Mohsin Abdullah, who's originally a church pastor of Jamaican heritage. He set up Muslim projects and initiatives in Manchester, and he set up a mosque in the heart of Mosque side. And he doesn't make the mosque only for Muslims, he makes the mosque for the whole community, okay? And he's also a community chaplain and activist and humanitarian. And Sheikh Bilal Brown of Afro-Caribbean heritage, studied Islam and going back into communities and teaching Islam. Now, future, we have a sister called Halima Shadeh, who has set up an online magazine called the Black Muslim Times. And this is the future. We've got the Black and Muslim in Britain, with our dear sister Sakina there, the quiet sister in the, is it brown or maroon? Maroon coloured hijab. And then we've got Dawood Gustav, who's been labelled as the next British Obama, because he's been touted, the Lib Dems are after him to represent them. And then we've got a future scholar there, Mamadou Tal, and then we've got our dear sister there, Rashidat Hassan, the General Secretary. We've got academic, Dr. Mona Abdi. We've got our sister there, Sister Faduma, who's been a senior advisor to Jeremy Corbyn, and we've got a future scholar there, Sister Hamida Sise, and we've got our dear brother Mustafa Briggs, his initiative called Beyond and Bilal. Thank you very much. Take care.